What's good? It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast. Bo Brock. This, of course, that's not Johnny Venerable. This guy, he was just, I think, loitering around our building. And I just said, hey, you want to come in and talk about the most exciting news during the Arizona Cardinals season? The return of not just Kyler Murray, but also Budda Baker. Alex Clancy, my former co-host from Locked On Cardinals, still does a great job over there holding things down for the Locked On Podcast Network. Alec, what's up, man?
What's up, man? Long time coming.
It has been a long time coming. Johnny wishes he could be here. He's going to be back, of course, on this great program tomorrow. He'll join us for an audio only. We'll get his thoughts. The JV, as far as what he thinks about Kyler Murray returning. Of course, we got on the ones and twos our guy, Damon Dog. We're all Damon Dogs. Welcome, newly formed Damon Dog and Alex Clancy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Any nickname I can, utilize at any point is very welcomed.
Everybody killing it in the chat already. Johnny Cash just yelling Clancy, exclamation points galore. Reunion, AZ, Os, Didi, Yo, what's up? We got the boys there, Raw the Messenger. How do I find audio only? Well, you can find it wherever you find podcasts. That's going to be live as soon as the show ends. And, of course, we drop one on Friday morning when we're off on Thursday. Tyler, Budda, and K1 doesn't get better than this. Alex, I wanted to have you on because without Johnny, I wanted somebody who's in this every day talking about this show to where this day, for me, it felt surreal that Kyler Murray was coming back. What were your thoughts when Jonathan Gannon got up on the podium, didn't waste any time? He said, hey, we did some shit. Kyler's coming back. Budda's coming back. What were your thoughts?
A couple. One, we can remove the word tanking from the dictionary of the Arizona
Yes.
Cardinals. They want to win. They want to see what this team's going to be like with their QB1 of the future. And the fact that he's coming back to practice, I felt a little bit like Christmas. Budda Baker coming back, the leader of this team, by all accounts, over the last handful of years, really been one of the pure just metronomes of this team and the defense. This is a good day for Arizona Cardinals fans. This is a good day for the Arizona Cardinals organization. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll see them both on the field, ripping it up like they have been.
Yeah, we'll get into timelines. I think two very different timelines between Budda Baker, who doesn't seem human, and then Kyler Murray, who'll make, some crazy plays. But as far as his timeline, he's a franchise quarterback, a little bit more cautious. And he's a guy that didn't have the benefit of training camp, didn't have preseason like Budda. Budda even got a week under his belt. We'll look at, their potential ETAs. I think, I'll just say right now, I think Budda's probably back in the lineup come Sunday at Seattle, going up to his old stomping grounds where his Huskies are playing at a high level. He wants to play in front of maybe some family and some friends, but we'll get more deeper into that conversation. But let's get into what Jonathan Gannon had. We kind of have a little Jonathan Gannon montage of what went down when he got to the press room this morning and gave us the news about Kyler and Budda coming back.
So Kyler will be out there today. Budda will be out there today. Excited to see those guys get out there and practice, and look forward to a good day prepping for Seattle. I know the work that he's put in, the people that have helped him get to this point, you can't praise enough, the whole medical staff, all that, the performance staff, the doctors, all that stuff. But, he hasn't taken a snap in this offense either. So, we got to see him do a lot of things, but I know he's excited to get out there and start playing some football. Well, he told me, he says, I'm practicing today. I said, great. See you out there.
Pretty subdued JG. I mean, it's like, great. We'll see you out there. Okay, cool. Good to see that you still work here. But yeah, I mean, I think that he's probably he's tempering everything inside because of what he pointed out, right? This is going to be the first time for a lot of things with Kyler Murray. One, getting into Drew Petzing's system, which, I don't think it's overly complex. It was something I think Colt McCoy was picking up. Physically, he couldn't do it. Joshua Dobbs obviously was able to kind of like riding a bike, get right back into it for the most part. I think, between the ears, Kyler Murray's going to be fine, but there's going to be some things that he's never done before, like being under center. That footwork coming out of, not staying in the shotgun as consistently as he had since, he started playing football just before high school. I mean, that's going to be a change of pace for Kyler Murray.
Does he know how to say hike? He didn't have to do it in college.
Yeah, instead of just
he'd have to do it with Cliff. I feel like this is going to be one of the easier offenses Kyler Murray is going to have to just, envelop himself in because there's a plan. What was Cliff's offense?
What, the air raid?
Yeah, but what was it? Where was the synchronicity? Yeah, a disaster. Yeah, lot of go routes.
It was a lot of go routes. It was like, okay, if you got one-on-one, you're gonna beat your guy. That's where we feel we have the edge here. Right? Yeah. It's definitely not the same as what Drew Petzing likes to set you up. He likes obviously the conflict of play action. Right. He likes the defense to maybe creep a little bit and then get separation, which is key. Which you didn't see a whole lot of separation with Cliff Kingsbury's offense. And I think that's where there's going to be the biggest difference maker is Kyler Murray's accuracy that we haven't seen from Joshua Dobbs the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think what's going to help him also is not having to get the ball off within 10 seconds of the play clock starting and knowing the play, being able to take their time. The Cardinals had the ball for 13 minutes in the first half or 15 minutes in the first half against whoever they played last week that's blanking me.
It's still the Los Angeles Rams football franchise.
This is an adult, big boy offense that's going to be balanced. They've got talent in the right spots. When James Conner comes back, it's going to be even better. And I think this is going to be an easy transition for Kyler Murray, especially with his IQ as a quarterback to begin with.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think that there's going to be – I mean, what we're going to see, though, just the very little that he's played under center. I mean, that's just – and I talked – this was one of the first questions I kind of had for Petzing. When we got to meet up with him after he was hired by JG and they launched his staff, was like, what is it going to, like, what do you expect to see? What are the challenges as far as playing primarily under center? He says, you're really just not going to know until you see it. It's something, it's like anything you start to pick up in life at first, it's going to be new to you and different to you. And you can be a sick athlete, a guy who's been drafted in the top 10 in 2 professional sports leagues, including number 1 overall in the NFL, the hardest position to play in all sports, but it's still going to be a little against the grain when you start out of it. So we started to see a little bit of today as far as Kyler Murray goes and some of the differences as far as what Kyler looks like in a JG, Drew Petzing type practice versus what it looked like Cliff Kingsbury. Let's hit this super chat right out of the gates. Alex, what kind of drills did they have Kyler do? So, yeah, let's get into it. Producer Damon, if we could just kind of give some of the sights from Kyler Murray's first practice. He's the man in all black here. He's got the tights on underneath his black shorts. He was primarily working out with Jeff Driscoll, who's the practice squad quarterback on the other side of the field. This is him. Like, you'll have Joshua Dobbs and Clayton Tune who are going the other direction. They're going kind of on the north side of the field where Kyler's out here on the south side of the field. And he's working with practice squad receivers and tight ends. I think for the most part, we just get to see him warm up. We're not going to get to see him do any real true like position drills. And then they'll break up in the team. And, we heard we'll hear from Joshua Dobbs. He breaks down. It was just nice to see him get out there and run. So he was out there kind of doing the same Kyler Murray that we're used to seeing and sling it. And then, you got Hollywood Brown, who said, it was nice and refreshing to have him out there as well. So you're starting to see a whole lot of just what you used to see from Kyler Murray. Look at this thing. That's just a rope, dude. You can hang laundry on that last pass.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the difference, it's like watching the preseason where you have guys that are trying to make the squad and guys who are already NFL players. It's just, when you see it, you're like, oh man, there's a large gap there. Yeah. Kyler Murray just comes out in his pajamas like, okay, I'm ready to play now after not playing for almost a year. It's just the floor is different.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh man, just inject it.
But that's what this is about, right? I mean, when you talk about this team on a daily basis and you go through the kind of the sludge of a 1-5 start, especially the last 2 weeks offensively, this is the light at the end of the tunnel. This is what made this job appealing, despite what all the idiots were saying that Kyler Murray was a deterrent for this organization. Right. This is why Jonathan Gannon, he sees this as an opportunity, right? He's like, oh, I mean, how often do these jobs open up? It's usually due to the fact that they don't have a franchise caliber quarterback in house. They have that. They believe that Kyler Murray is the guy that they signed to big money extension, $230.5 million. And you just had to kind of wait out. You had to play this waiting game, a very important one, coming off the most significant injury of his career.
Yeah, and one other thing, like this, it can't really go understated. Jonathan Gannon's cool, calm. He's comfortable.
Yeah.
He's like, I belong. Like you see just, it's the quiet confidence of him throughout training camp, throughout the offseason, throughout everything, ups and downs, whatever it may be. He's shown up every day, in control, answering questions. And he's like, yeah, they're going to practice today. Sorry, guys, I didn't tell you before because I didn't have to. It's like, we're going to get our leaders back. And this is what it's going to be. And it's a calming force, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's also another wrinkle to this, right? That the fact that Jonathan Gannon rolled up to the podium and no Schefter tweet, no Rappaport tweet. I think you could even point at like the Kyler tweet from himself where he went JJ Watt, like source me.
Yeah.
I'm practicing today.
Right.
Jonathan Gannon, he announced it. Like there were no leaks. And man, what a stark contrast that is to the previous regime. It was like you couldn't take a leak in the men's room without it getting out and somebody telling the information like, hey, Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, they used the restroom. Yeah. And Rappaport's like, this is what I'm hearing. Trip.
And I guess you now know where the leak came from. Right. I mean, now like if there was ever putting in more salt in the wound.
I thought you were playing on words there.
No, you made a poor homonym kind of transition there. I kind of brought it back to earth, talking about the real leak of information and the misinformation that happens in this, in this town, in this city.
Yeah.
And it seems like one of these things is not like the other. The GM that was here when that was happening is no longer here, and seems we haven't heard from Monty Osborne at all. He's like, okay, I put the people in place. Now go do your jobs.
Right. And I love how tight to the vest Monty played.
Yeah.
Jonathan Gannon played. Like, those days are over. Like where you would get away with a lot of things, right? Especially if you're a media member. It's like, oh, they've got their blinker on. I know what direction this organization's going, and now you don't. Like, I know what direction they're going. Right. They're going trending in the right direction for the first time in a long time. But now you don't know, like, hey, we're going to telegraph from it. We're going to go after, we're going to trade a first round pick because we don't have any confidence in our ability to draft here, or we're going to just completely blow up the draft and try to go against the grain as far as how you should spend those premium picks. You should spend them on premium positions instead of not premium positions. And we've seen how far that's set it back. And that's why today's so exciting, right? Is because they're doing all this. When we used to work together, you said, like, you got to eat your vegetables, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a heavy dose of this off season. I mean, this is a cleanse, right? This is an absolute just cleanse throughout. Like Monty Osborne doing all the moves, the unpopular moves that you have to do. Don't sign those guys to big money extensions and Byron Murphy and Zach Allen. Right. Don't go out there and try to fill holes through free agency because that can be sometimes fool's gold. Emphasize the draft. Take your assets and try to turn them into more assets. And he did that. And then we'll work with that, whatever we have left over as far as the roster, try to match what free agents are out there that are affordable with schemes with the new coaching staff. And then we'll see what we have with Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray, like at week 7, coming back and returning to practice, it gives you more hope from what you've already seen from the front office and the coaching staff.
Yeah. Everything that everybody has said was going to happen has happened so far. And I am sober. Thank you, DK. I do appreciate that.
Clancy looks perennial.
Yeah.
Have you gotten in on our OGs? Did you find some OGs in the break room?
I've not. I probably should have before joining this with you, but no, I'm stone sober, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, everything that's happened from Michael Bidwell down, taking away the report card and all of the, allegations and everything about, how he runs his organization, everything has been box checked since removing Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim, exactly how Monty Osborne and Jonathan Gannon wanted to, and exactly to plan in a stable and mature and functional way. I feel like we're in a different, atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really Arizona Cardinals in name only. Now, if it works, cool. We don't know if it's going to work yet, but so far so good. They've checked every box that they've wanted to up until this point.
They have. And I think they probably wanted to win a few more football games, but those are sometimes just the product of a rebuild. And rebuilds, they're not for the faint of heart. They're not for people looking to get their hands dirty. And they weren't for the previous regime. I mean, I think Kyle Odegaard has pointed out several times that, Steve Keim's on record that every single season they're never rebuilding. They're always trying to contend. And that's a very flawed team building philosophy, and is trying to find true consistent success. That's not going to work.
Finding true consistent success is like the great white buffalo of the NFL anyways. It's the white whale. It doesn't happen. Unless you're the Patriots or you're a couple different teams. Like the 49ers were terrible 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And now they've gained it. So I think it was more narcissism and egomania.
They were picking second when Kyler Murray went number one overall.
Right. I mean, a lot of it had to do with Steve Keim never thinking he was wrong, egomania, narcissism, whatever you want to say. And this is just, let's hit rock bottom and let's rebuild.
Right.
And that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially with a hard reset like this.
Yeah. Kyler Murray, what he brings to an offense, and I think you kind of saw it on display. Like there's a difference. Like you go to a ballpark and you hear a special hitter and there's a different sound off the bat. And everything I've seen from the quarterback position dating back to OTAs, or even dating back to the day after December 12th, I think it was the Monday Night Football game that Kyler Murray went down against the New England Patriots. Right. There wasn't anybody that came close to the arm talent that Kyler Murray has. And it's what it's going to do to be able to take this offense to a different dimension. And we saw it on full display. I was talking to Brian Baldinger, who joins us every Tuesday, Alex, on PHNX Cardinals. And, he was trying to diagnose and figure out what the issues were with Joshua Dobbs. But what he started off with, which we pointed out, are the 2 missed throws to Hollywood Brown. Yep. And how it could have just swayed the complexion of that football game. And Joshua Dobbs talked about it today as well. He's well aware of it. But I think Kyler Murray, I think it's fair to say that he hits on at least one of those balls. Like we've seen that throws in his bag.
Just let him throw off his back foot and be happy with it. Because when he's doing that, I mean, there were the ones that come to mind all seem to be Christian Kirk for me from a couple years ago. Whether it be going tiptoe on the sideline or the one against the Cowboys, whatever it may be. Yeah. I mean, and he extends plays. Joshua Dobbs has played out of his mind. He's done a very good job at showing the proof of concept for this offense for when Kyler Murray returns. And when Kyler Murray returns, could take a week, whatever it is, he'll be ready to rock. Like I don't see a downside to anything that's happened so far this year. It's working exactly how it's supposed to. Kyler Murray's ready to play. He's ready to quiet the naysayers, and so is the rest of the Cardinals.
I love it. Taking a look at the chat, you guys are crushing it. We'll go with Topic 64. Very loyal listener and viewer of the program. Love Topic 64. Sir Alex, my man, I like this. Is it T-Dactyl? Was it saying everyone chip in a super chat? Let's get Clancy a new webcam. For reals, though, LOL. That's a great point. I was glad that I had to. Does everybody think I had to go bust Alex out of his jail cell that everybody thinks he is on every single Locked On podcast?
I live very comfortably, Bo. I live very comfortably.
It looks like the most uncomfortable thing
I use my.
He's a minimalist, everybody.
I use my natural lack of skin pigment to light up the camera, and I don't want to overdo it. Okay, I don't want to reflect while I'm doing a podcast and speaking truths about the Arizona Cardinals, Bo.
I think it's nice to know. Not only is it refreshing to see Kyler Murray back out there on the practice field and Budda Baker, but now that Alex Clancy has officially learned that you don't have to shelter in place any longer. 3 years later.
You do not. It's great. I didn't know that you couldn't just order food to go. There's a grocery store around from where I live. It's lovely.
Is it?
You're the worst.
Oh, man. No, you're the best for joining us. Everybody's crushing it in the chat today. Budda Baker was also out there Jakai 1080p. It's more like he's about 480 right now. It's baby steps. We'll get there. He'll be at 720 next and work his way up.
Yep.
Dylan Richards, Johnny's chopping down trees, drinking pumpkin spice. Bronny Venerable, that was his nickname yesterday after he debuted the flannel on Sunday. So we're all having a great time. And for a 1-5 team, this is the kind of boost that you need. Now, when does it mean that Kyler Murray's coming back? That's a different story. But this is kind of the shot in the arm that I think this organization needed to just kind of continue the goodwill that it's created over the last 8 months.
Yeah, and I mean, where are you at with him coming back and this having a direct correlative to the draft choice next year? Like, is it like I'm in the camp where it's like just go play football and win, and then whatever happens. Like, are you in the back of your head like, oh, this draft pick's not going to be great if he plays another? Say he plays week 9,
right?
And he plays the remaining 6 games or 7 games, and they win 3 or 4 of them.
Well, Producer Jamie, let's take a look at their schedule real quick. We'll bring this back up when we really want to kind of identify where he's going to.
Give me a second. I'll pull it up.
You'll bring that up, and because I think there is a money spot where if you are at full strength, especially offensively with Kyler Murray, that there is some very winnable games. I think
there's like a 4-week span, right?
Right. I think like Atlanta, Houston, and then
I think the Rams and then Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I think that's the 4-game stretch.
The Rams, I know when you look at the final score, it's 26-9. But when you talk about weight classes, I think the Arizona Cardinals are not like far below the Rams weight class. Like they're surprising people, but with Kyler Murray, I think that you've got a very good chance of especially at home winning that football game. Like you got to do a lot of things. Obviously defensively, Budda Baker helps that, but I think that becomes, and I think it was a winnable game this past weekend, but things festered, and as they do with kind of an undermanned roster.
Yeah. I mean, when you're devoid of talent like that on defense, you have Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford on the other side. It was only a couple drives that game that really shattered everything.
Yeah.
First half, Cardinals turn the ball over, or turn the Rams over. They only get 3 on the punt recovery, and then Cooper Kupp just did what he did in the second half. But I mean, I agree with you with that.
Yeah, crush that like button. But your question, though, I don't think I ever answered about the draft. It's like, where do you stand? And you guys can answer it in the chat as well. I mean, I think that as far as especially the Cardinals' own pick, which right now stands to be the most valuable because of what Houston's doing. They've got the second easiest schedule remaining in the NFL. CJ Stroud is bucking all the Ohio State slander about quarterbacks, right? That have struggled at the NFL level. He looks like he's different in several ways. Probably the best quarterback in this class, right? To come out. And they're going to win some football games. And that Texans pick that we thought was a premium pick, probably top 5, top 10, is now borderline top 50. You're lucky if it's 15 or in the top 20. So when you look at the Cardinals' top pick and how Kyler Murray can change, how that's going to go, I have so much confidence in Monty Osfort, Dave Sears, the assistant general manager, the scouting department that they're putting in place, and then even on the coaching staff, Jonathan Gannon with a scouting background, like they proved that sure they were armed with some pretty decent picks, but they proved like I think Garrett Williams is going to show you that he can play. Michael Wilson has already shown you can play. Keitrell Clark down, in the 6th round has shown that, outside of his struggles the last couple of weeks, he's a guy that can play. So they're going to be able to scout and find talent, even if this pick slides. And then it's nice to daydream about Marvin Harrison Jr. wearing a Cardinals uniform, or Joe Alt, or the kid from Penn State. But I guarantee you, Monty Osfort is going to be able to, if they identify Kyler Murray as the franchise quarterback, that makes things so much easier than you just build around him with all this draft capital.
How many franchise quarterbacks are there in the NFL right now? Like true bona fide franchise quarterbacks? Like 10?
I mean, in the NFC?
Just in general, 10, 12 in the NFL, where there's not a true question on when this contract is out. This is our guy for another one. I mean, I think Kyler Murray would be on the side of the franchise quarterback opposed to the other side. And isn't it funny? Like, first of all, having a QB1 is way more important than a high draft pick. So if this works and Kyler Murray is the quarterback 1, you'd rather have that than have a high draft pick. But isn't it crazy that the Cleveland pick could be worse than the Houston pick?
I know, man.
And maybe the powers that be in Houston saw that with D'Amico and with CJ Stroud. They're like, you know what? Well, looks like we're doing them a favor by giving them the pick they think is going to be higher. Yeah. But in essence, it's going to be the one they got from the Deshaun Watson trade.
I mean, very rarely do you see across pro sports where both teams are like, oh, we got the better end of this, right? And I think Houston, by being able to trade back up, get third, and get Will Anderson, who's been a monster as a rookie, and obviously they love what they've seen from C.J. Stroud. What Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans are doing there in Houston it's ahead of schedule. I think it's a lot better than anybody anticipated, and good on them on that. Sean Marks, love Sean Marks, loyal listener, viewer of the show. He's great on Twitter. What? Cool to see the old crew together. I think I saw Locked On Reunion. Yeah, we used to chop it up. How many years did we do the show for? I blacked it out because my
IQ has risen significantly since I haven't had to talk to you every day. 17, 18, 19, 20.
Oh man. Yeah, we started 18.
You started in 18. I did 17 by myself.
Talk about just an absolute horrid year to talk Cardinals
Bo
football.
And my first game together was week 1, Washington professional football team at State Farm Stadium. Alex Smith, Chris Thompson ran roughshod all over Adrian Peterson, ran roughshod all over the Arizona Cardinals, and we look at each other in press box like, this is going to be a long year.
Sam Bradford is that quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, and they had a
not great
draft pick that didn't see the field that day.
Yep.
And good old Josh Rosen. We'll take a look at Damon holster the schedule. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. But we want to talk about our friends over at Game Time as we start to try to figure out when Kyler Murray could make his home debut. Could it be as soon as a week from Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray? Well, don't miss on that. But if you want to kind of drag your feet and just kind of see if Kyler Murray is going to actually be in the lineup, will he be activated by then? Game Time, it benefits procrastinators like myself, like Alex, like Damon Dog, to where you can wait and see and you can save some money. Game Time, love it. I know my wife took my son to his first football game week 2 against the Giants. Wasn't the result everybody wanted, but we did not break the bank getting into the game. We also got the parking passes as well. I think I paid like $2 for the parking pass, which is unreal. Yeah. Game Time's got you set up, tickets to the event, parking. You're looking for Diamondbacks tickets. You can. I saw, Philly Twitter right now.
They're pretty cheap.
Was saying that you can get a good deal on Diamondbacks tickets. Why not get them on Game Time?
Use promo code PHNX on that, and you could be going to the game for free.
Not bad, because when you do use that promo code PHNX, $20 off your first purchase there with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase, as Damon said. Terms apply. Again, create that account, redeem the code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Also, let's talk about BetMGM. We're going to be watching the Seattle game from the BetMGM Sportsbook out there on the Great Lawn in Glendale, right there at State Farm Stadium. You're going to be able to place bets at the kiosk, or you could just download the app right now. You enter that code PHNX, and you're going to get locked in to make some great wagers for yourself. Sign up, use that code PHNX, place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the BetMGM Sportsbook mobile application for at least $10, and you'll receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out, of course, the show notes for full details. But now you got to listen to our guy, Shane Diefenbach, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
There's our guy, Donnie. He's right on it. Saying, Bo, you're absolutely right. Bought my tickets to the Falcon game, $65. Should have used Game Time and gotten that better deal. There you go. I mean, we learned. Donnie, I see you. I see you in my mentions on Twitter. Great follow there. What's up in the chat? Welcome, Johnny Cash. Clancy, Locked on Cardinals host. Good to see you, lad. Good to see you, Johnny. Fishbowl Flash, any K1 bets yet? Have we checked on the BetMGM Sport? It's a little early. But I wouldn't doubt that there's some tasty little K1 maybe season numbers that you can tap into. Always some good stuff. Just for giggles. Bo's old nemesis, Clancy. Old nemesis continues to be.
You call me old?
On a daily basis. Let's get into, let's take a look at the schedule, because we were talking about one little stretch where we think that Kyler Murray and this Arizona Cardinals team could potentially get hot. I'm looking at November 12th, 19th, and then 26th. The end of November is, and even at the beginning of December here, going into their bye week with a struggling Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Like, these are flawed football teams all the way through, that if you get really good quarterback play, and we'll see, how Kyler Murray, knocks the rust off. But I think that that's a stretch to where we talk about draft pick. Mm-hmm. That's where you can do some, I'll say negative damage to it, but positive overall for the Cardinals organization, Jonathan Gannon and crew.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the defenses they have to play for the rest of the year. It's just wild. Like, you'd rather have it this way than powerhouse offenses, because the defense is well behind the curve as compared to the offense. But yeah, I mean, Atlanta with Desmond Ridder, CJ Stroud, that's just going to be fun. It's just, the NFL schedule is sometimes just so serendipitous, where it's like you play these teams and it's like, oh, there's so many storylines going into that. And the CJ Stroud, obviously the one there. And as you mentioned, there are some very winnable games, and then you're going to be fighting, the devil and the angel on both your shoulders, like win, lose,
Right.
win, lose, even though, you want Kyler Murray to perform so he's ready to roll for next year.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're definitely going to be coming out on the winning side a lot more than anybody envisioned for this team going into this season. Does 4.5 still sweat probably, but it's going to be a lot more entertaining along the way. Arizona Animal said that's 4 winnable games during that stretch. Now let's kind of try to identify where we think Kyler Murray could come back, because and we'll get into more of the Budda Baker impact later, because not only did Kyler Murray come back, but the heart and soul of this
Right.
Cardinals organization, Budda Baker, returned. But because I think Budda is going to be out there this week. Kyler Murray, Jonathan Gannon already said, when he was asked about Joshua Dobbs, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, basically consummate professional. He's going to be ready to go. And Gannon said, I know he's going to play well against Seattle on Sunday. Already locking him in at QB1, so you can take out any kind of questions as far. Kyler's not going to play. He's not going to be active come Sunday. This is Joshua Dobbs. He's got the keys to this offense, right? So you can X out Seattle. So week 7's not happening. Best case scenario, it's Baltimore at home week 8. I still think, like, just the way that the NFL sets up their schedule, Alex, it's like Kyler's gonna practice today, tomorrow, and Friday. And then they'll have like a glorified walkthrough on Saturday, maybe a mock game. I don't know if he's going to participate in that, because that's going to probably be reserved for people who are going to have a role on Sunday. And then you've got 3 days next week. So that's a total of 6 practices. That seems like it's that I know that's dream world scenario. That just seems kind of too far-fetched.
This is a quintessential moment for where's the damn rush?
Sure.
This is a situation where they have an ecosystem in place to where they don't need to do anything. They're going to let the time go by. When he's ready to play, he'll play. This activation just means that they have 21 days, and I think that there's no rush to get him back, which is kind of a backwards way of saying if they lose a couple games, it's fine. Just continue to have Jonathan Gannon get this team ready for success every Sunday, which they have every game. They've been in contention pretty much every game except for probably San Francisco, where they were just severely outmatched.
I mean, they were in that game, I think 3 minutes left in the third quarter. And that is the talent disparity there. Like, I think you give a little golf clap for that, right?
There's no rush. And what you mentioned about Joshua Dobbs, he's had this team at the lead at halftime or close to it pretty much every week.
Yeah.
He's played into a backup role for the rest of his career.
You would
starting,
think, right?
spotty starting. I mean, he's shown it.
Those from week 2 against the Giants, of course, week 3 against the Dallas Cowboys, and then his admirable performance against the San Francisco 49ers, which is an elite defense. You would think it, but then you see these last 2 weeks. He has to get this offense back on track in some capacity this week, and it's not an easy task. Like what Seattle did to Daniel Jones, like I don't know if he ever recovers from that.
Right.
He's gonna wake up just sweating in his bed, thinking about the time he was sacked 11 times or 10 of 11 times on a primetime game. But I think that he's got an opportunity to where he's gonna have to find the end zone in order to continue the trend that he had the previous couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, not having James Conner is a huge, like, he was the metronome. He was the go-to guy on offense. Joshua Dobbs missed a couple bad throws last week, but you got to keep in mind, and this is kind of how I look into this as the Cardinals start losing games, but you start to see the offense continuing to have sustained drives, the offense not having 37-second 3-and-outs like we saw multiple times, even when they were 11-6, even 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was just that thing. You have to be able to put your defense in a position to succeed. And the best defense for the Cardinals, especially now, is keeping the offense on the field.
Yeah.
So Joshua Dobbs, but he's done great. And you just got to figure out if he can score more touchdowns instead of kicking field goals, if he can find open receivers, getting Rondo more involved. I mean, obviously these are the same things every week, but I don't think there's a rush for Kyler Murray to bring him back.
Right. No, and that becomes a bit of a luxury, and Joshua Dobbs created that one that I think people didn't necessarily existed, especially when they sent a 5th-round pick to Cleveland for Dobbs, who'd fallen out of favor with the Browns in place of DTR. It's funny how that turned out. They would love to have a guy like Joshua Dobbs back. Let's take out a look at the chat as people try to kind of figure out when the best time to do it is. When
Can you go back to the Just for Giggles comment real quick for JG and company?
Sure.
Because this is interesting. The not their guy conversation, it's a fascinating conversation. Usually it's for average players. It's for you can take it or leave it. If any player becomes a star or is a star, it will turn into the new regime's guy. I mean, is that safe to say? Like, it'll force the hand. I mean, it's kind of a 50-50, and if he doesn't play well, then you can let him go in certain situations. Kyler Murray's shown enough to be anybody's guy, right? And we'll see how he plays this year, but, I mean, I just don't see a world where they move on from him.
Right. No, it's like, I guess I think when things get a little tough is when you have a top pick, right, and what's deemed a generational type prospect, right, and you have to have the tough decisions like what's the difference between Kyler Murray and say the top quarterback in the draft, and what makes sense business wise, $230.5 million versus punting a season on cap space, eating some dead money, and then getting the benefit of a rookie scale quarterback contract. That's the only thing, right? But I think we're kind of like we're falling out of that conversation, right? Like the teams that are ahead of them right now in the draft are quarterback hungry, absolutely quarterback hungry. And yeah, Kyler Murray, given unique circumstances, absolutely will be those guys. And he and Jonathan Gannon, from what we've heard, huge bromance going on right now. I mean, when he wasn't practicing, he was out there on the practice field chopping it up with Jonathan Gannon. They're competitors just like each other. They're very like-minded in that. And Kyler Murray appreciates being coached hard by JG.
Yeah, and they're both a little bit misunderstood, which I think you can bond over also. You know? Ask Mike McDaniel if he cares what people think about him when he's atop of the AFC. He's one of the weirder dudes in the NFL ever. Like there was a I don't know if it was a meme I saw it somewhere where somebody said that he runs the Dolphins team like his dad's out of town and he's taking over for the weekend. He's just carefree. He's having fun. Jonathan Gannon's a weirdo. Who cares? That's a good thing.
Right.
He shows personality. And Kyler Murray, in a different way. But yeah, I mean, and with Joshua Dobbs, in the chat, no, he's not a top tier guy. He's not a Pro Bowler. But he's played competent football where we had no idea what he was going to be. We had no idea. We except for a couple weird Mad Libby games in Tennessee last year that came out of nowhere. We have no idea what he was going to be. And he's played competent football more than he hasn't, even though it's been waning in the last couple weeks, second half.
Explain the Mad. So just name a quarterback, name a team. Joshua Dobbs, Tennessee Titans.
That's your Mad. It's like a grab bag. It's like, how is Joshua Dobbs ever? That's gonna be a great trivia question 20 years from now. The immaculate grid game. That's gonna be a cheat code. Tennessee Titans, Arizona Cardinals. Josh Dobbs, 1%.
Yeah, Jose, Kyler ain't going nowhere. Just for Giggles asking, is the bromance for real or is it just politics? I honestly think it's genuine. I don't think that it's, obviously things can change and there's an ugly side of this thing as far as is the business side. And Monty Osfort is the one pulling the strings and making the decisions roster-wise, but he's going to take heavily into account, the relationship between Jonathan Gannon and Kyler Murray. And is he, like, Jonathan Gannon, I think, will always maintain, like, he's been a big fan of what Kyler Murray's done and how he's attacked his rehab and how he's been a team player throughout that, how he's been in the film room, how he's been in the meeting room, how he's been in the locker room with this team while he's been away from it. But, he understands that you can look at old tape, you can look at all the things I just mentioned, but it comes down to how he looks on grass too, like how he looks in Drew Petzing's system, how he looks as far as when he takes the field with this team. So that remains a variable in all of this. But so far so good as far as that relationship.
I mean, it seems like it's a quarterback friendly system too, right? I mean, you've got your tight end outlets. You're going to run the ball a lot. You're going to run play action, as you mentioned. Under center is not. I mean, it's foreign to him, but so is winning in the NFL.
Yeah. So
when it comes to this could be something that could be exactly what he needs to elevate himself to that next level. I mean, if they don't, say this season goes awry and Kyler plays fine, but it's that 50-50, don't really know. And you and I talked about this off air, like, if they move off from him, do you see that as something where you can't trust Jonathan Gannon? And I know this is all projection.
Sure.
Like, this is all just...
This is a hypothetical.
Yeah, these are the conversations that will be had more and more as we get closer to the end of the season. If he plays average and they move on from him, does that kind of shatter the trust that Jonathan Gannon's built so far with his tenure?
Like, do you think that they were full of it? In a sense, right? I mean, so far they haven't given you any reason.
Nope, they haven't
to doubt that. like everything that Monty Ossenford has said from his opening press conference to Jonathan Gannon's opening press conference, all the way to here through training camp, through the ups and downs of this young 2023 season, I feel like they haven't just bald-faced lied to us. Where the previous regime, you can't say that.
Right.
I mean, there were several times like, you make any changes to your coaching staff? Nope, we're good to go. Oh, the Bobby Mack's breaking that their offensive line run game coordinator was let go from the team in Mexico City. Like that, those instances happen where that's the old guard. Like the new guard, you can. Sure, there's like gamesmanship to it. There's strategy. There's things that they have to play tight to the vest. But just straight up lying and saying, we're going to stick with Kyler Murray, or we like what we've seen from Kyler Murray, and then just be like, we're not keeping Kyler Murray. We're not really going to do that. Like that doesn't exist. Like they're not. There's a strategy to it, and then there's just being, kind of a crummy person behind the scenes trying to just gain any advantage.
I mean, I feel like after asking that question, I'm like, do I have Stockholm syndrome for the last regime? It's like, how do you not trust? You just can't trust anybody after this.
Stockholm, you would have been sitting there and been like, well, Cliff King, you just got to give Cliff a chance. There's too many injuries like that. And Steve Keim was a product of just some poor, bad luck drafting where we know
well, that's true, isn't it? Isn't that what everybody thinks?
Get out.
Isn't that what everybody thinks? I didn't want to be here anyways. No, I mean, it's just interesting to see the level-headed nature in a perfect storm of crap that they walked into. They're just like, yep, this is what we'll do. Yep, this is it. Business as usual. It's like having a good manager. You and I both worked in the restaurant field.
Yeah.
It's like when you have a manager that is running around like they've had 48 shots of, espresso and they don't have any control over anything. And you have somebody that walks in 10 minutes late, like, yep, all right, let's just get things going. It's just, there's a calm.
It's like, what would Cliff Kingsbury always say? Like, we'll see, right?
And you got to watch the tape.
And I got to watch the tape. He would talk about sometimes self-scouting for that but that's all stuff that Jonathan Gannon just has ingrained in him, right? And sometimes he'll say, we'll see, but behind that, he knows exactly what's happening, right? He said that probably a ton with Kyler Murray, but they knew the plan, and it was going to come down to Kyler Murray and getting checked out from his doctors and his trainers, and couldn't definitively say at any point and wasn't going to kind of show his hand. But, I just... Jonathan Gannon right now, I think you can take for the most part everything at face value. Like he's prepared for this. Like Mike Florio used to try to knock him. It's like, of course, he was working on his interviews. Like, no, Jonathan Gannon had all this stuff prepped for the time he was going to get an opportunity to become a head coach a long time ago. Yeah. Like this is a guy that's prepared for almost anything you're going to throw at him, where that wasn't the same with the previous coaching staff and the previous front office. They just kind of, things would happen, they'd react. And if that in the NFL, usually when that's happening, you're way behind the eight ball.
Yeah, that's right. Being reactionary, screwed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's take a look at some of this chat. Bombs Forever Dobbs was bad in those games as well. I believe he said he's just a backup. And it's interesting, when I talked to Baldy yesterday, when he was just kind of breaking down the struggles of Joshua Dobbs, like what he described was a backup quarterback, like the quintessential backup quarterback. And he kind of equated it to, because he was just breaking down film because he's a sicko and he's awesome at what he does, but he was just going deep diving Gardner Minshew at the Colts. And Gardner kind of had a similar thing, right? He came out, he looked awesome for the Colts in relief of Richardson, and then he had a come to earth game, a worse come to earth game than even Dobbs. He threw 3 picks, and that's, I think it was the late great John Clayton that says, a good backup quarterback is going to win you 3 games. He's going to lose you 3 games. That's how the league is. Unless you've got that extra gear, which Kyler Murray has, where you can make the adjustments, or you can just have more talent than the guys on the field. You're going to get what you're going to get, and that's what we're having with Joshua Dobbs. Yeah,
and if this was Colt McCoy and not Joshua Dobbs, they probably have the same record. They could be 0-6.
Yeah, I don't think they would beat the Cowboys with Colt McCoy.
I mean, it's just like this is.
I don't think they're as competitive as they've been in the first half.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, a lot of Joshua Dobbs, production was made on the ground, especially that long, angry run for the touchdown. Now, with this, as you mentioned with Jonathan Gannon, like it just feels natural too. It's just one of those things where it's like, yep, this is how it's supposed to happen. And like, as you talk about all these examples and Joshua Dobbs and Kyler Murray coming back and the new regime and everything, it's like, this is how you talk about a stable organization that's going through a rebuild, which is just foreign to us.
Right. I think as far as how Monty's attacked this rebuild, is exactly what you want. Now, with that being said, it does, you can't truly see what he looks like in the next step.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of confidence, but like we don't know what Monty Osfort, how he's going to approach having ample cap space. And we don't know how he's going to approach like having his draft picks in place. Like, can he do it again? Because it looks like last draft was a success, especially relative to the previous general manager and what it's already kind of produced in a sample size. But yeah, there are a lot of boxes you just can't check off just by this because of how messy it was.
Yeah. And just because the last regime was messy doesn't mean this one isn't doing a good job.
Sure.
And we're not comparing it to that. In a vacuum, what's happened so far with the new regime would have been good, even if the last regime won a Super Bowl and decided to quit. You know, like it's just, it's different. And you're right. I mean, we have the crutch where it's like, there's no expectations for this team. So everything's going to look good.
Yeah.
You can give Jonathan Gannon all the excuses in the world for having second half collapses because their team is made up of practice squad players on defense a lot of the time. Until you actually have that pressure when Kyler Murray comes back, Budda Baker comes back, James Conner comes back, Jalen Thompson's healthy, and they're able to actually put a squad out there that is at least C+ from 1 to 53 on game day. None of this is going to matter because there's going to be no expectations.
Right. If it's C+, but you have an A at quarterback, I mean, that can be a team that can be dangerous, right?
Yeah.
I know defensive coordinators don't want to have to prepare for those teams, and sometimes they can wreck a season. They can certainly wreck a Sunday.
Sure.
What won't wreck tonight, if you hit up Burrito Express for your choice as far as what you're eating for dinner. We love Burrito Express, especially their location in Tempe. They take great care of the Sun Devil athletes over there. Great community service. They support ASU athletics. Of course, our guy Jalen Conyer is involved with Burrito Express. They do everything great as far as they just get it right with the burritos. That's all we ask of a place that sells burritos. Just get right with the burritos. And sometimes a lot of restaurants can't even do that. Burrito Express, they specialize in it. You can just go and be like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to get myself a bean and cheese burrito, and it's elite what Burrito Express is doing right now. We thank them anytime that they drop food off. We love what they're doing. Elite on Twitter as well. Their owners out there just giving and firing off just hotter than hot sports takes, even more so than this guy here on set with me and Alex Clancy. But go grab yourself a burrito. Follow Burrito Express at Burrito EXP. And also, while you're doing it, why don't you buy yourself some Shady Rays online? Go to shadyrays.com. Check out what's going on with this premium polarized sunglasses at not a premium price point. They love to give their sunglasses, sell them at well under $100. I was talking to the sales rep there in their Kierland Commons store up in North Scottsdale, and he's like, yeah, they want to make an affordable sunglasses that is you're not going to break the bank on, but they're going to be competitive and look just as great and be just as rock solid as the bigger name brands. And that's exactly what they have. Shady Rays also has an insane protection for all their eyewear. If you lose, you break them, they're going to replace them, no questions asked. So check them out. Kierland Comms up in North Scottsdale. You can go tell them the promo code PHNX like a crazy person. Just shout it out, and they'll be like, okay, here's 50% off 2 or more pairs of your sunglasses. Or you can go online, shadyrays.com, check out their full product line, all the sunglasses they have for you. Buy 2 or more pairs, use that promo code PHNX, and you'll find out why 250,000 people have rated it 5 stars online. Shadyrays.com, promo code PHNX. I love my Shady Rays. Love them. I also love this t-shirt, wearing it in a celebratory fashion, the Zen celebration, of course. Check it out. You can find it PHNXlocker.com. Alex, we got to get you some PHNX gear, man.
Probably not ideal.
Not ideal. We gotta get your. We gotta check. Is the chat going crazy? Is it getting chippy in there, Damon?
Yeah, I was getting a little chippy.
Okay,
it's like a mosh pit in there.
I think
it's like a Rage Against the Machine mosh pit. What are we doing?
I think we're good.
Girl radio just popped up and people just started throwing hands.
Lights out.
Oh man, so. Let's pop up this schedule real quick. We'll kind of cap the Kyler conversation, get into some Budda Baker conversation before we get out of here. Brian 107 getting in the Hollywood. He's big on Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown had a great quote today, Alex, where he was asked about Kyler Murray, and he basically said like they didn't bring him back just to be like your average quarterback. Like he said, he's not coming back to be average. He's coming back to prove a point and prove a point that he's a top quarterback. And like that got me kind of juiced, like hearing that.
Quarterback play's been down this year. This is
Overall.
a perfect time for Kyler Murray to come back and be like, remember me? I won the Heisman. I won a Rookie of the Year. I've been a Pro Bowler twice. And yeah, I tore my ACL at probably the absolute worst time anybody could tear their ACL during a transition. I mean, there's never a good time. But now he's back. He's jacked. And he's ready to show this adult NFL offense off in an elite level. And that could be massive for the Cardinals for the next, until Drew Petzing gets a head coaching job.
Yeah. I see Hollywood Brown posting some fun things on social media. Great stuff there. Alex Smith done cooking. LOL. Donnie asking where the offensive line is at least top 15. Kyler is about to play at another level. That is a big part of this, right? I mean, last year it was patchwork. They tried to bring back some continuity. Rodney Hudson wanted to retire. They wouldn't let him. Same thing went for Justin Pugh. He got married. He dropped like 30, 45 pounds, had to get back up to playing weight, and then unfortunately tore his ACL. Great story this season as he made his way back, from the couch.
Right off the couch.
Right off the couch. Great story there. But he felt like, he even told us this, like he felt like he was going to retire, and then Steve Keim was like, hey, you want to come back and play football? So like you have your interior offensive line there, like outside of Will Hernandez, you had two guys that thought they were retiring. DJ Humphries had the back issue, and then the right tackle position, Kelvin Beachum was fine. He played each and every game, but like his impact, we're seeing what Paris Johnson can take that up a notch. But what we've seen from this offensive line is one of the more consistent groups we've seen probably since, Jared Valdir and Mike Iupati were on this offensive line almost 10 years ago. Yeah.
Remember, if the offensive line doesn't protect Kyler Murray, it doesn't matter if they have Marvin Harrison Jr. or not.
Right.
I mean, and there's some really, really blue chip offensive linemen that are going to go in the top 5 or 7. So if the Cardinals don't pick in the top 2 or 3, it could be a lot worse with the amount. They need talent at every single position aside from quarterback. Every single position. Wide receiver is probably the last position they need talent infused. Maybe safety.
Well, but I mean, the group we're talking about right now, the O-line. I think
fantastic. I mean, I think with him and Paris Johnson, then you've got a staple. Every week, you don't have to worry about breaking down like the left side of the offensive line has the last 3 or 4 weeks with DJ Humphries and Elijah Wilkerson.
Yeah. And Baldy was saying like he thinks Humphries' struggles are a part of the struggles at left guard.
Yeah.
Kind of having, Wilkinson or whoever they put in there. Tristan Colon has played sparingly. Dennis Daly got in there his first reps last week. They did not look good. Sure, Aaron Donald can make a lot of people look bad. Sure. But, I agree with Arthur. Draft a left tackle in a wide receiver. I would like to see them invest one of those premium picks in the defensive side of the football because it's got less talent on it than the offensive side. But left tackle, man, I would not mind that after what I've seen so far, from this offense under Drew Petzing. Their offensive line coach has done a great job. Right. And then just, like you say, bookend your tackles. Kyler Murray, that investment looks all the better when you don't have to think about it. You can just set it and forget it. If you got Joe Alt and you've got Paris Johnson, it's pretty sexy.
Now, this is unfair of me to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyways because of who the defensive rookie of the year looks to be. If they drafted Jalen Carter at 6 and not Paris Johnson, do you think this team would be in a better position for the future with all the money they have in the offseason? Because you're right, defense is the interior defensive line. If they went corner, IDL, in the first 2 picks, cool. Yeah. If they went corner edge, cool. If they went offensive line, corner, cool. If they went edge, offensive line, cool. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You pick any 2 positions, and it's going to help this team because they need help everywhere. But do you think that the offensive line is do you think that was the right with Jalen Carter, if you were guaranteed that he would do this here, that would have benefited this team more? Or do you think Paris Johnson was the right choice?
It was never a question with Jalen, right? That's the biggest issue, right? And Paris Johnson has been everything that as advertised and more. And he's shown it even more on the field that you didn't have the luxury of doing it. And I'll qualify that. And I just have to do that, for people who maybe didn't follow it. Like Jalen Carter obviously was involved in a tragic accident following Georgia's national championship win that cost people's lives. And, what was alleged, was not something that I think that the organization's point during their rebuild that they could do. But just the question as far as what he would bring just to the field of play and where one of their biggest issues have been, if you put a Jalen Carter in this rotation, like it immediately elevates what you've seen from this defensive line that's replacement players, basically up and down the depth chart.
Yeah,
it's a tough conversation that I don't think is necessarily fair. Not
Yeah,
that
no,
you
I get
asked
what
it,
you're
you know what I
saying.
mean? But
Yeah.
I just don't think I think Jalen Carter, like, if you still can't say like Jalen Carter how he produces on the field, like that he's not, the red flags, like they just can't go away. Like
Agreed.
at any point, like I don't have any questions. Like Paris Johnson's going to get ready to play and not going to do anything stupid to take himself off the field.
That big smile during rookie minicamp was all I needed to see
Right.
for him wanting to be here
Right.
and him wanting to play. And guess what? Like a lot of times with top tier talent or top tier draft picks, you're like, oh no, he's not ready.
Right.
And then with stars, you sometimes see it like, how did they get him at 6? Kind of something like that. And that's not the case with him. Will Anderson maybe at 3 because he's played out of his mind. But Paris Johnson Jr. has done everything and more that's expected of a right tackle in the NFL, and it's his first year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not much more you can ask. So I agree. I asked that as a hypothetical. I don't think Jalen Carter, regardless of off-the-field stuff, which obviously is very serious or not,
Mm-hmm.
I still think that drafting offensive line was the right way to go.
No, there's no Hollywood Brown getting traded, Donnie. That ain't happening. Let's see what else we got. Jessica saying PJJ knows ball, absolutely
Yep.
does. Just for giggles, I know Bo wants Brock
Bowers.
Bowers. Look, I do like watching Brock Bowers play football. I think ever since he was a true freshman for Georgia and was making plays for them, he's a big time player. But Cardinals, a lot bigger needs than tight end. He's the forbidden fruit of this draft for the Cardinals.
Thanks a lot, Stevie, baby.
Yeah, exactly. We have any super chats we need to get to here? No, we're good. Let's pop that schedule back up because we never finished the conversation about Kyler Murray and his potential return. So I think, this week's ruled out. Baltimore is best case, but it'd be in a perfect world, right? And then you look at November 5th, and it's just tough for me watching what Myles Garrett did to the San Francisco 49ers offensive line last week. One of the biggest, scariest men on the planet.
Yeah, he's big.
Yeah, and Myles Garrett made him look like a turnstile at times. Trent Williams. So, and then you're on the road in early November in Cleveland. I just don't think that those variables are conducive to bringing back a franchise quarterback for his first game.
I get it. I mean, but there's going to be no idea. Atlanta's defense is nothing to snuff at.
Mm-hmm.
Houston's defense is obviously much elevated with DeMeco Ryans taking over. The Rams have Aaron Donald. The Steelers have a scary defense with TJ Watt. And then the 49ers, it doesn't get easier.
Right.
So I understand
There's no
your point.
perfect time.
Right. I understand your point. I would almost rather, if he's ready, if he's 100%, I'm ready to go. Like Jonathan Gannon said, he practiced full go today. Why not let him rip in Cleveland? What does it matter? If he's ready, let the kid play. And I just think, we're going to see a lot about him. We'll see a lot about the team. And it's not like a case study. We're not doing experiments.
Right.
But there's no perfect time to have a quarterback come back midseason to a bad team coming off an ACL tear. So if they come back and he plays well against Cleveland, where they've had a lot of success, the Cliff Kingsbury list Arizona Cardinals a couple of years ago, won there in convincing fashion.
It was just maybe we're fucking better. We're just effing better from JJ Watt.
Maybe.
No, that was the game.
I'm offended with that word, though.
Oh,
just
the
want
F.
to let you know.
Sorry, it's an adult program.
Can you prepare? Can you prepare me for the guidelines of this podcast? No, I mean, but you're right. It's not
Alex
ideal.
doesn't curse in his.
I do not.
Well,
curse.
he's alone in his condo.
I do not curse. I go to bashes sometimes, but with Cleveland, it's it's not ideal, but you think that he doesn't want to play, he'll want to play. He'll be like, let's go.
Right.
And if Jonathan Gannon wants to pull the restrictor plate off, play him for a half. There's no rules for what you have to do with him.
That would be 9 practices. I mean, I think he's pushing to play by then. Will Joshua Dobbs, will his play, I mean, if he continues to go the direction he is and it's not trending in the right direction, does that maybe force your hand a little bit, which I think they're trying to take that out of the conversation.
To force their hand to play him because Joshua Dobbs is playing poorly?
If the offense continues to struggle,
and
it's costing them football games. It has, it did certainly last week. I think that they probably maybe, and this is not an organization that's not willing to revisit things and have, a different conversation and say, hey, maybe we change it up a little bit. But I think in the best, if you look Baltimore, I know that's feels like it's forever away. Like we're going into week 7 in Baltimore, or I'm sorry, Atlanta. Atlanta is in week 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think Atlanta is probably like, if you want to see Kyler Murray hit the ground running off of, being activated from PUP and getting right into this offense and kind of looking like the Kyler Murray of old, I think that's your best case.
Yeah, that's probably right. I mean, it's the sweet spot inside a not so sweet spot situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but yeah, Cleveland, it's not ideal, and I don't know if you necessarily want to put somebody in that situation, but if Kyler Murray wants to play and he's cleared 100%, let the kid run.
Yeah.
Like let the young man run.
Yeah.
Like I think it's also selfish because I've watched so much bad quarterback play this year, fantasy football, everything. I want to see what Kyler, like, this is a perfect year for Kyler Murray to poke his head out and be like, look at all of this regression.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming off an ACL tear and I'm a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see that this year because we've all seen it. He was he was a an MVP front runner in 2021
through 7 weeks.
And this isn't an Uncle Rico situation.
He had
yet
like
either.
20
that was
total
2 years ago.
tutties at that point, through 7 weeks.
Yeah.
He was putting up mad numbers.
The only game Bo and I watched together, was the Green Bay game when AJ Green, Kyler Murray threw the ball. He tried to catch it with his back, and then that's sparked Rasul Douglas's career.
And then that was basically the end.
That was the end.
That was the
Cliff Kingsbury didn't know how to deal with.
Beginning of the end.
That was the Detroit season when they go on the road to Detroit. Jared Goff, Dan Campbell in the beginning, and they just get swept. That's the difference between this team and that team. Don't look at win-loss. Look at what they're prepared for every week, how they react to adversity, and it's not their fault that they don't have NFL average talent at best right now.
Seattle's certainly off the table. I mentioned, JG gave a big vote of confidence to Joshua Dobbs. We'll play the one clip of Joshua Dobbs because there's been a lot of questions as far as how do you get Kyler Murray prepared while getting Joshua Dobbs, who's in the starting quarterback role, ready for that week's game. And Joshua Dobbs answered that today.
Yeah, it doesn't change my approach at all. It was great having K1 out there, seeing him running around and everything, slinging it. But it doesn't change my approach at all. We're still preparing for Seattle, and I have my same approach each and every week. I've seen it. I've seen as we know and we've talked about. I've seen every side of this quarterback thing. So my approach never changes no matter what. I come in, work hard, prepare, get ready. Well, I'm starting, of course, prepare as that I am the starter, and then if I'm not the starter, preparing as if I'm the starter. So my approach doesn't change, man. It was great to have him back out there, and again, we're excited to prepare for our next opportunity. Yeah, the coaches have a plan for that, and we'll communicate that, but there's no concerns from my end. When my reps are there, I go out, take full advantage of them. And then when he's getting his reps, I'm still back there getting my mental reps. So it's not like you're checked out if you're not in. So, no, there's no concern at all. They'll have a plan, and that's their job to figure out their plan. My job is, when they tell 9 to go in and execute play at a high level, I go in and do that.
And Kyler Murray, for those who just joined us, he was out there on the practice field. And Damon, if we could pull up, some of the footage from him throwing here. But this is the only time he kind of spin on the field with, Dobbs and Clayton Tune, who are the starter and the backup quarterback. Otherwise, he was on the other end of the field with Jeff Driscoll, your practice squad quarterback, throwing to the practice squad players. It's Elijah Higgins, who's he's on the active roster, but he's mostly getting reps with the practice squad guys. So he's throwing like a Caden Davis, and he's throwing to other players that aren't involved in the game plan. Man, it's so nice to see Kyler Murray just slinging a little bit. Just gets a little bit more zip on his football. But he's on this side. He's not even kind of involved like with the starting wide receivers right now. So he's starting off slow. And, JG kind of outlined what they do in practice, where they get the ones versus the twos, offenses and defenses, traditional teams do. And then they kind of pit, from the scout team to, the second stringers and practice squad. Like, everybody's getting involved. There's enough reps, in Jonathan Gannon's opinion, to get everybody up to speed and keep everybody locked in case their number's called on any given week.
Yeah. This is just going to unlock a portion of this offense. Like, that's all I can think about. It's like Trey McBride, I think, is going to be one of the biggest
stock on the rise with this.
Well, he's the most talented tight end they have, and he's going to get the reps. And yeah, just seeing Kyler Murray throw the ball, this is something I don't fanboy very often. You don't we're pretty level-headed when it comes to you want good things to happen for the team, obviously, because it's more fun to talk about positive things as opposed to negative. But I think everybody can just get behind how exciting the return of Kyler Murray is going to be, and seeing him on the field, I will fanboy the hell out of that, because I've been a Kyler Murray guy. I've been on the aisle of Kyler Murray. He wins despite Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Kyman, not because of. And now we're going to get to see him completely unleashed with a new coaching staff and new offense. But yeah, I mean, everything you said is right. It's just there's going to be reps. They seem to have a timeline. We don't know what that is, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what else is okay? Getting the old Spaghetti Shack for dinner. We love Spaghetti Shack. It's better than okay. It's ASU alum owned and operated. They serve a menu starting, of course, with spaghettis, meatballs, garlic bread. Those are the staples. What else could you ask for? Spaghetti Shack, it's on a mission to provide quality, affordable food quickly as possible so you spend less time cooking and spend more time with your loved ones. We just love, they nail it. Like, if you're going to have the Spaghetti Shack, you got to get spaghetti right, and they absolutely crush it. So delicious, community focused. It's a to-go concept, serving Tempe and Queen Creek. Enjoy all the delicious spaghetti, meatballs, and more at their Arizona locations. They dropped some off earlier this week. Legit, love the spaghetti there. Unreal, nice little lunch that we all got treated to here at PHNX Sports. Also, speaking of PHNX, become a diehard today. Join, get full access to gophnx.com. Read all the great work from Howard Balzer. I mean, 90% of it is wide open and free for you, but the other 10% you're not going to want to miss out on, from all of our beat writers, from Howard to Gerald Bourget with the upcoming Sun season, Craig Morgan already cranking out great work for the Coyote season, and what Jesse Freeman's doing for the PHNX D-backs. Don't miss out on any action at gophnx.com. Become a diehard. Get your free hat or shirt just by becoming a member, and get access to the member Discord. Like, Alex is on the set right now. He's not a diehard. He doesn't get access to the Discord. He's missing out. You don't have to miss out any longer. Go phnx.com. Go to the phnxlocker.com. Get yourself one of these great shirts as well. It's been fun. We haven't talked too much about Budda Baker. I feel bad because of what Budda brings to this organization day in and day out, what he brought to this organization when it was in such dire need of it last season, Alex, when things were going south, and he was just that steady guy who continued to show up, play at a high level, and just give his heart and soul to this team. Went through, obviously, kind of embattled this offseason, but right back on track. They float him a couple extra dollars. They lock him in for 2024. They pick up that team option. Budda Baker, it really feels like he's coming back. Different scenario than Kyler. Like, he's going to be in the lineup come Sunday.
Yeah, this is another very exciting. This is another very exciting thing for the Cardinals. Like, going back to what Monty Osifort has and Jonathan Gannon, we talked about earlier in the show about them doing everything they said they're going to do.
Yeah.
Budda Baker requested a trade. Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter. Oh no, here we go again. He's going to go for a 4th round pick or a late pick swap, and the Cardinals are going to lose one of their guys. Monty Osifort, very level headed. We're in talks with Budda Baker. We're in constant talks with Budda Baker. We're in constant talks. They give him the guaranteed money this year. They give him the elevators and incentives next year. Not a whole lot off the cap. And it makes everybody happy. Very simple little things to make your best players happy to get through the gruel of a season that's going to be bad in the win-loss perspective. And now he's going to come back. He's motivated. He's paid. He's ready to go. And Budda Baker on the field makes this team inherently better by, you can't even gauge how important he is to this team on the, when he's actually on the field, even if he has quote unquote regressed numbers wise. The amount of holes he's had to fill on this defense over the last couple seasons due to, cornerbacks or linebackers or whatever not doing their jobs, or the talent level not being there. That's what he's done. He's been the Swiss Army knife that they needed, and having him back's just a massive uptick for this team.
Right. Having guys like Ben Neiman out there who don't have the speed to catch up with wide receivers or with running backs with the ball in their hand, and having Budda Baker having to fly across the field and just make up for, the lack of athleticism and speed and stuff like that, but also just knowing where to be, practicing how he plays. I mean, who were we talking to on the old podcast that said his practices are legendary, and it's just the same as the game, and you put that back in the lineup, and it's a boost. Now, you're going to need better from your corners, especially with the matchup coming up, but Budda Baker being behind them, it gives you, that safety net that I don't think has been there. And then some. I mean, he's more than a safety net. He adds to this defense, and you add that caliber player right off being off the IR. it's going to give Nick Rallis what we wanted to see beyond week 1, but we're robbed of it with a hamstring injury. We'll see. No Jamin Thompson again today, still dealing with a hamstring injury of his own, but he continues to kind of trend in the right direction. Is it going to be good enough to where he can get back on the playing field with his safety, Budda Baker? We'll see. Something to follow along with the rest of the week here on PHNX Cardinals. I'll be back out there at practice tomorrow. It'll be Kyler Murray's second practice. We'll give you all the sights and sounds from that. Press conference. We'll see if we hear from either one of Kyler Murray or Budda Baker. Neither one of them talked today, but it'll be exciting to finally hear from those guys. Real quick before we get out of here, Fire Gut driving the bus. Great screen name. Bo, what if JD, another performance, Joshua Dobbs this Sunday, more turnovers, missed chances? Do you think JG sticks with him? I think it's Dobbs until Kyler comes back. I really just if they were going to really heavily consider playing Clayton Tune, they would have done it by now. They probably don't, after the miserable joint practices in Minnesota, they say, well, maybe we'll just ride this out and see what Tune can do. But I think they like the skill set, but the reality is 5th round pick, played at Houston. He wasn't playing Power 5 conference football. That's just a big jump that they're not really willing. They're not naive to it like some of these other organizations. Like, oh, we can really get away with this, and it's bitten them in the ass. Right.
If Kyler Murray was out for the year, we could have that conversation. Because it's like at this point, if Kyler Murray's not starting, the Cardinals aren't going to win games. More chance than not, especially with the teams they're playing for the next handful of weeks.
Yeah.
So there's going back to what we were talking about before, there's no real rush to bring Kyler Murray back.
Mm-hmm.
There's not if he doesn't come back by this, they could miss the playoffs. Or if this doesn't happen, then this. There's no if P then Q with this for him this year.
Mm-hmm.
So if Joshua Dobbs stinks, they lose games, their draft capital gets better. But you do know that Joshua Dobbs is competent. He's obviously a very smart person.
Mm-hmm.
He has a handle on this offense. Not having James Conner is the biggest bugaboo here, which is just a ripple effect for Joshua Dobbs' performance. I don't think that unless he turns into Nathan Peterman on Sunday and he goes 3 for 10 for 12 yards and 5 interceptions.
On him.
Right. Well, you won't. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I don't see a stutter step to another quarterback before Kyler Murray. It just makes sense.
Jose asking for some BJ Ojulari updates. And I think the move with Amajay Sanders even more emphasizes that they want to continue with the youth movement. And we saw an uptick in snaps for BJ on Sunday against the Rams, and that will probably continue the trend in the right direction. Now we're hoping to see more impact plays made by the second runner out of LSU. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. Chase, is there a show tomorrow? We will have the audio only tomorrow. We'll still have content coming out from practice. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at PHNX_Cardinals, and of course on Instagram as well. We'll have a couple things hitting on the YouTube channel, but no live show like we had today. Thursdays, kind of our day off since we're doing Sunday game days. We've got content on the site every day, but tomorrow, no live show. Big thank you to Alex Clancy, of course, at Clancy's Corner on Twitter. You can listen, you can watch Locked On Cardinals, wherever you find podcasts, of course, on YouTube. But make sure you're subscribed to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Make sure you got those notifications dialed in. Johnny returns tomorrow. Make sure you're following him at Johnny Venerable. I'm Bo Brock. For producer Damon Dog, have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll talk to you soon here on PHNX Cardinals.
We all silly like the mayor.